You're with Julian on the Brown Note, and I just wanted to do a little bit on the radio. I do Gone But Forgotten virtually every week, which is usually an album that didn't get the kudos on release that I think is a masterpiece, or typically one that's fallen out of conversation. But occasionally I do artists, and this week I'm doing Duran. The Birmingham, the least glamorous town in the UK, which is ironic considering they became the most glamorous band in the world. Formed in 1978, and they're a unique proposition. I mean, I wanted to feature them because I was making the case that they were the best singles band of the 80s. I'm playing 5 on the show, but there are probably 15 classic singles by Duran. Up against, I would say, Prince, New Order, Madonna. I would say that they have a more classic run of singles than any other band in the 80s. And also, I'm a big fan of dramatic pop singles. It's My Life by Talk Talk, Dancing with Tears in Their Eyes by Ultravox or Midure, one of the two. I Need a Hero, Bonnie Tyler. I love that song. But I like really, and Touch Me, The Sun Always Shines on TV by Duran like Aha. I love that dramatic pop single, and they do it better than anyone. They've got so many dramatic pop singles, but there's so many weird things about Duran. They were the biggest boy band of the era. Up against Wham, up against Culture Club, they were the biggest teen heartthrob band in the country, always voted most kissable in Smash Hits magazine. Here's the thing, these were a bunch of art rock dudes who were they hung out with Andy Warhol. They were into high fashion. Nick Rhodes, he was the most fashionable of the lot. John Taylor, probably the most musical gifted of the bunch. Their bass player was always voted the best looking, even though he was highly regarded as a bass player. Roger Taylor, Andy Taylor, two brothers, and their singer Simon Le Bon, who married a supermodel called Yasmin Le Bon now. I mean, if you look at boy bands now, they have nothing in common with these manufactured boy bands. They were playing in pubs, and they just happened to catch on with the public through fashion and through their songs and through their vibe. They used 35mm film stock on their music videos, which became iconic. And they just blew the world away. I wouldn't make the case that they were the greatest albums band of all time, but their run of singles has really stood up. And I mentioned earlier how the production on a lot of those singles, like the one coming up next, was state of the art. And it still sounds a lot better than most 80s music because it had really state of the art production. They used people like Nile Rodgers, who produced the upcoming track. I would also make the case that they're the best boy band since the Beatles. Ironically, another band that had no business being a boy band. And they're the last boy band. They're the last great boy band. They were a bunch of musos from Birmingham that became teen heartthrobs. You look at boy bands from the 90s on, after this era, and they fell away at the end of the 80s, and in the 90s, in came Take That. Then you've got boy bands who are 5 dancers. It is a completely different paradigm. The music of Duran was weird. They almost never wrote love songs. Hardly any of their songs were boy-girl songs. They wrote about post-apocalyptic hellscapes and really weird, obtuse stuff. And then you got people like Take That and NSYNC and Westlife come in. All of their music is love songs. All of their music is either ballads or light R&B. And then you've got this Duran as an absolute art rock behemoth who are probably far closer to Roxy Music than they are to the likes of the boy bands of the 90s, Backstreet Boys, whoever, who represent a totally different world. What happened? How come it all ended in the 80s with these teen heartthrob bands, and then they became these 5 one singer and 4 backup dancers? So I'm celebrating Duran as one of the greatest both dramatic pop acts, boy bands, and the best singles artists of the 80s. Can't really get better on all counts than this. Produced by Nile Rodgers, Wild Boys.